Once upon a time, in a quiet village called Omuzi, there lived a boy named Chidi. Chidi was a kind and cheerful boy who loved exploring the nearby forest. One day, while wandering in the woods, he met a beautiful girl named Amoka. Amoka was sweet and kind, and they quickly became friends. Chidi felt something special for her and soon asked her to be his girlfriend. Amoka has been Chidi's girlfriend for the past 1 year without him finding out that something was wrong with her. Chidi loved his girlfriend so much and was dreaming of spending his life together with her forever. They explored the forest, played by the river, and shared their dreams. However, Amoka had a secret unknown to Chidi. Every evening, just as the sun set, she would hurry back to her home, never staying out late. Chidi found this strange, but he didn't question it. One evening, Chidi excitedly decided to surprise Amoka with a gift. He waited by the edge of the forest, hoping to catch her before she went home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he saw Amoka running towards the forest. He called out to her, but she didn't hear him. Curious and a bit worried, Chidi followed her.
This is so strange. Where is she going at this time of the evening? Chimu.
Chidi said. Chidi quietly followed Amoka through the darkening forest. He kept his distance, careful not to make any noise. As he crept closer, he saw her enter a small clearing. She stood still, looking up at the moon, which was just beginning to rise. Suddenly, Amoka began to change. Her skin turned pale, her eyes glowed a bright yellow, and her teeth grew into sharp fangs. Chidi watched in horror as his beautiful girlfriend transformed into a monstrous creature right before his eyes. Her nails became claws, and her body twisted and grew until she looked like a fearsome beast. Chidi's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like they were glued to the ground. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The girl he loved was a monster. Just as he was about to turn and flee, Amoka's monstrous eyes locked onto him.
Chidi, why are you here?
She growled, her voice a deep, guttural sound. Chidi trembled with fear.
Amoka, what happened to you?
Amoka took a step closer, her monstrous form towering over him.
I am cursed. At night I become a monster. That is the reason I always leave before sunset. I didn't want you to see me like this,
she said. Chidi's mind raced. He had to help her, but he didn't know how. He asked, his voice shaking.
Is there a way to break the curse?
I've tried everything. The curse is too strong. You should leave, Chidi. It's not safe for you to be here.
Amoka shook her head. But Chidi couldn't leave her. He loved Amoka, and he couldn't abandon her, even if she was a monster.
I won't leave you. We'll find a way to break the curse together,
he said firmly. Amoka's monstrous face softened for a moment, but then she turned away.
Go, Chidi, go before it's too late,
she said. Chidi reluctantly left the clearing, his heart heavy with sorrow and fear. He couldn't sleep that night, haunted by the image of Amoka's transformation. The next day, he went to a native doctor, hoping to find answers. The native doctor listened to Chidi's story and sighed deeply. The curse you speak of is ancient and powerful, he said. It was cast by her uncle long ago when she was still a child. Many have tried to break it, but all have failed. Chidi felt a glimmer of hope. There must be something we can do, he insisted. I can't give up on her. The native doctor thought for a moment. There is one way, he said slowly. but it is dangerous. You must find her uncle. Only then would the curse be lifted. Chidi knew the journey would be perilous, but he was determined to save Amoka. He made her way, finding where her uncle was residing in the next village. The path was treacherous, filled with dark forest, steep mountains, and raging rivers. But Chidi pressed on, driven by his love for Amoka. Chidi finally reached the uncle's house. It was a dark, foreboding castle hidden deep within the mountains. As he approached, he felt a chill run down his spine. The castle seemed to pulse with dark energy, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. Chidi took a deep breath and entered the castle. Inside, he found himself in a maze of twisting corridors and shadowy rooms. The walls were lined with strange symbols and eerie portraits. He felt eyes watching him from the darkness, but he pressed on, determined to find the source of the curse. Finally, Chidi reached a large chamber at the heart of the castle. In the center of the room stood a tall, sinister figure. The uncle. He was cloaked in darkness, his eyes glowing with malevolent power. "You dare to enter my house," the uncle hissed. "You will pay for your foolishness." Chidi's heart pounded, but he stood his ground. "I have come to break the curse you placed on Amoka," he said boldly. "I won't let you torment her any longer." The uncle laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "You are brave, but foolish. The curse cannot be broken. And now, you will join her in her suffering. Her mother is owing me her only plot of land her late husband left for her," the uncle said. "But you cannot have the land since it's all they got." Chidi screamed at him. "That's the only way the curse could be lifted," the uncle said. Chidi made his way back to the village, his heart filled with defeat. He couldn't wait to see Amoka again, to hold her in his arms and tell her that everything was going to be okay. But as he entered the village, he noticed something was wrong. The villagers were gathered around, their faces pale with fear. "What's happening?" Chidi asked, rushing to the crowd. A villager pointed to the forest. "It's Amoka," he said. She's still a monster." Chidi's heart sank. He ran to the forest, praying that it wasn't true. But when he reached the clearing, he saw Amoka. She was still a monstrous creature, her eyes filled with sorrow and pain.
"Chidi, the curse. It's not broken yet."
She growled, her voice filled with despair. Chidi's mind raced. He had to do everything he could as quickly as possible. But then he realized the terrible truth. The uncle had lied to him about the land Amoka's mother was owing him. The truth was that the uncle had no child and was jealous of his brother, Amoka's father, and then decided to kill him and turn his daughter, Amoka, into a monster. The curse could never be broken. Amoka's monstrous form trembled with anguish. "I told you to leave, Chidi," she said, her voice breaking. "I told you it was too dangerous." Tears streamed down Chidi's face. "I couldn't leave you," he said. "I love you, Amoka. I had to try." Amoka shook her head, her monstrous eyes filled with sadness. "You should have listened," she said. "Now we are both doomed." Chidi's heart shattered. He had failed. He had risked everything, but in the end, it was all for nothing. The curse was too powerful. He fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Amoka let out a mournful howl, echoing through the forest. The villagers heard it and knew that their beloved Amoka was lost forever. They mourned for her, but they also feared her. They knew that as long as the curse remained, she would be a danger to them all. Chidi stayed by Amoka's side, unable to leave her. He watched as the moon rose higher in the sky, its light casting eerie shadows on the ground. He knew that their love had been doomed from the start. The curse was unbreakable, and now they would both suffer for it. As the night wore on, Amoka's monstrous form grew more restless. She could feel the curse tightening its grip on her, driving her to madness. "You must leave, Chidi," she growled. "I can't control it much longer." But Chidi refused to go. "I'll stay with you, Amoka," he said, his voice trembling. "I'll stay with you until the end." Amoka's eyes filled with tears, but she knew it was hopeless. The curse would consume her completely, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. "I'm sorry, Chidi," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." With a final, heart-wrenching cry, Amoka's monstrous form lunged at Chidi. He barely had time to react before her claws slashed across his chest. Pain seared through him, and he stumbled backward, falling to the ground. Amoka's monstrous instincts had taken over, and she couldn't stop herself. "Amoka, please." Chidi cried out, but the monster that had once been his girlfriend could no longer hear him. The villagers, hearing Chidi's screams, rushed into the forest. They saw the terrifying sight of Amoka, now fully consumed by the curse, attacking Chidi. Without hesitation, they grabbed torches and weapons, ready to defend their friend. "Get back," shouted the village leader, raising his spear. "We must protect Chidi." The villagers advanced, their fear and sorrow fueling their determination. They managed to pull Chidi away from Amoka, but the beast turned its fury on them. She roared and lashed out, forcing the villagers to defend themselves. Despite their efforts, Amoka was too strong. One by one, the villagers fell back, unable to withstand her monstrous strength. The forest echoed with the sounds of battle, and Chidi, barely conscious, could only watch in horror as the girl he loved was lost to the curse. In the chaos, Chidi remembered the native doctor's words about the curse being tied to the uncle's dark power. He realized there must be another source of the curse's strength. Desperation gave him a final burst of energy, and he struggled to his feet. "Wait!" Chidi shouted, his voice weak but determined. "There's a way. We have to find the true source of the curse. We have to destroy the tree." Chidi shouted. "It's the source of her uncle's powers. There's a big tree in the uncle's place, so we must cut down the tree. I believe after cutting the tree, the curse will be lifted and Amoka will be fine again," Chidi said with faith and hope written on his face. The villagers, understanding the urgency, went to the uncle's place in the next village and began to attack the tree with their weapons. The ground shook as they hacked at its roots and trunk. The tree seemed to fight back, its dark energy lashing out at them. As the tree weakened, Amoka's monstrous form grew more frantic. She let out a series of agonized howls, struggling against the curse that bound her. Chidi approached her cautiously, his heart breaking for the girl he loved. "Amoka," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Fight it. I know you can." Amoka's monstrous eyes flickered with recognition, and for a brief moment, Chidi saw the girl he loved beneath the beast. She fought against the curse, her body trembling with the effort. The villagers continued their assault on the tree, and finally, with a resounding crack, the tree began to fall. As the ancient tree crashed to the ground, its dark energy dissipated into the night. Amoka's monstrous form collapsed, and she lay still on the forest floor. Chidi rushed to her side, hoping against hope that she would be free. But as he cradled her in his arms, he saw that the curse had taken its toll. Amoka's body was cold and lifeless. The curse had been broken, but it was too late. She was gone. The villagers gathered around, their faces filled with sorrow. They had saved their village, but at a terrible cost. Chidi wept, holding Amoka close, his heart shattered by the loss. The village mourned for Amoka, remembering her for the kind and gentle girl she had been. They built a small shrine in the forest, near the fallen tree, to honor her memory and remind themselves of the price of dark magic. Chidi never recovered from the loss. He spent his days in the forest, tending to the shrine and talking to Amoka as if she were still there. The villagers watched over him, offering their support, but they knew his heart would never heal. As for Chidi, he lived out his days in quiet solitude, his heart forever bound to the girl he had loved and lost. The villagers would often hear him whispering to the wind, telling Amoka's story and keeping her memory alive. And so, the story of Chidi and his monster girlfriend came to an end, a haunting reminder that not all tales have a happy ending. The forest, once filled with laughter and love, now stood as a silent witness to a love that had been tested and torn apart by darkness.